Welcome if you're just joining us. We're going to wait a few more moments. Feel free to pop a little message in the chat. Let us know who you are and where you're joining us from. Kia ora, Tatiana. PKL, kia ora PKL. Catherine from the sunny Kirikiri, kia ora Catherine. Norma, kia ora Norma, West Auckland. Josie from Auckland Museum, kia ora. Kia ora Debbie. James, kia ora James. Another one joining from sunny Kirikiri. Tēnā koe Audrey from Mangere. Shirley, kia ora Shirley. Just while we've got that chat running, just a big thank you to our IT support in the background, Amy and Aggie. And we've also got Jackie Johnston, an engagement advisor, who'll be monitoring the chat for any questions throughout the presentation. Right, we might wait another minute or so. All right, I think that's us koutou. So tēnā koutou, welcome along to this info session. My name's Helen Clark and I'll do my best over the next sort of 30 minutes or so to provide a bit of an overview of the Community Building Projects Fund here at Foundation North that has opened today. A couple of housekeeping matters. It's one of those formats, obviously, where you're able to see me, I'm able to talk to you, and the way you can communicate back to us is via the chat function. So please feel free to use that. We've got Jackie Johnston in the background monitoring the chat. We'll do our best to answer questions as we go. If it's relevant to the section I'm speaking on, I'll try and address it then. And we've always got the option of circling back to address any questions at the end. And if there are any questions that I can't answer, we'll make sure we get back to you after the session. Other housekeeping matters, I think that's about it. This session has also been recorded, so it'll be available from our website after the session has concluded. And the presentation obviously will be part of the recording. A little bit about me. My name's Helen. I'm the engagement team lead here at Foundation North. I hail from the far north, born and raised in Te Wāhapu or Hokianga, and currently reside at Te Atutu Peninsula. And I've been here at Foundation North for about 3 years. So that's a little bit about me. Next slide, please, Amy. To get us started, before we crack into the nuts and bolts of the Community Building Project Fund, I thought I'll just quickly squiz us through a little bit about Foundation North. So Foundation North is the community trust for Taitokito and Tamaki, and our vision is simply to enhance lives. And you can see here our values along the bottom. The pūtea that's used to make grants comes from the community's profits from the sales of the Auckland Savings Bank in the late 80s. So that's a little bit about us. Next slide, please. All of our grants and all of our mahi is focused around these 4 strategic focus areas. So increased equity, inclusion, regenerative environments, and community support. And at Foundation North, we've got a couple of funds, our Community Grants Fund, our Quick Response Grant that many of you might be familiar with. And this Community Buildings Project Fund is also guided by these 4 focus areas. And it's critical that your project aligns to one of these 4. So I'm going to just dip into a little bit more detail about these. Next slide, thanks, Amy. So increased equity. I'm not going to read through this, but as you can see, we've got a little definition here of what we believe increased equity is about and the kinds of activities we're wanting to support. There's some specific priority communities that we call out in this focus area. That is Māori, Pacific, people in Northland and South Auckland, and young people. And you can see there we're quite deliberate around the types of activities that we are wanting to support. All of this information is also available on our website. Thanks, Amy. Next slide. Social inclusion, whakauru mai. You can see here again our definition of social inclusion and the kinds of things that we want to, the types of activity that we'd like to support. And again, we call out some specific communities of interest here: former refugees, new migrants, rainbow communities, and people living with a disability. Again, I encourage you to take a deeper dive and look at this on our website. Next slide, thanks, Amy. Regenerative environment, whakahau taiao. So here you can see, thank you, Amy, and community support, our 4th and final focus area. Thanks, Amy. So a little bit about the Community Building Projects Fund. And you can see here, as I go through the presentation in the orange box, I've kind of highlighted, I suppose, the crux of each of the slides that I'd encourage you to pay attention to. So starting with the orange box, strong alignment to one of the 4 focus areas is critical to any of our funds, including the Community Building Projects Fund. Sorry, Amy, if you just go back, thank you. So just worth noting here that the fund is contestable. Is about $8 million has been allocated to the Community Building Projects envelope. And it's open every 2 years. This is a bit of a change for Foundation North. So we moved to opening the fund every 2 years recently. So if you've been around Foundation North for a wee bit, you'll notice that this is a key change. The Community Building Projects is a question here. Is that 8 million per funding? That's $8 million designated towards the Community Building Projects Fund, and the fund is open every 2 years. Hope that answers your question, Tatiana. It's for larger community building projects, so anything over $100,000 to $1 million. If you've got a smaller community building project that's under 100K, you can check out the information on the community grants information, and you can apply under any of the 6 rounds that are open. So again, this Community Building Projects Fund is for the larger funds, and it's open once every 2 years, and it's contestable. My computer's pinging me out. Here we go. It's a 2-stage process, starting with the expression of interest, and expressions of interest are open today. And if you are successful, a full application will be invited for consideration. Cool. Next slide, thanks, Amy. It's a bit of an outline of the time frame. So as I said, the expressions of interest are open as of yesterday, and they close on the 15th of June. And a decision will be made in August about expressions of interest, And if you are invited to make a full application, you'll get a final decision in late March 2023. Thanks, Amy. So what I thought I'd do is run through the three main components of any funding request made to Foundation North, and then have a little look inside what's specific about specific and new about the community building projects application. So the three main components of any request, the organisation profile, your organisation's profile, details around what you're wanting funding for, the request, and the third and final piece is the supporting documentation. Really important here just to note that all of the information and decision making and payment, etc., is all administered via the Funding Hub. So if you aren't registered, step one would be to register for the Foundation North Funding Hub, and that you can do that by going to our website. Thanks, Amy. So the first component, your organisational profile, you'll find this once you're registered in the Funding Hub. You'll go in and it's your opportunity to tell us about who you are and your organisation, what your purpose is, what your governance looks like, the genesis of your organisation, how you came to be, and the mahi that you do. That includes, programs, activities, the type of mahi that you contribute to your community. So really important to take your time to tell us as much as you can about who you are and the mahi that you do. Thank you, Amy. The second component to any funding request here at Foundation North is what we call the request information, and this is the particulars of what you're wanting funding for. So I'm just going to pause there and check the chat. I'll leave that one in there for you, Jackie J, to answer. Thank you, Denise, for your question. So the request information, and this is made up of three specific areas. And the first bit is around alignment to strategy. So I started off taking time to run you through the focus areas, the 4 focus areas, and the first section we want to know about is how you see yourself contributing to that strategy. We're interested in how it aligns to one of the 4. We're interested in who you collaborate with and how you work with them. And we're interested in the community benefit that you believe the community project will render. New to Foundation North, this particular funding round, are the 3 components in the orange box there: universal design and your design process. So we're interested to know who's been part of your design process. In particular, we're interested if tangata whenua or mana whenua have been part of the conversation with you, and or other stakeholders in your community. How have they been involved in your design process? Universal design, those principles speak about, I'm assuming most of you on here will know about universal design, so I won't get into that. But essentially, we're interested to make sure that you've considered that the building is fit for as many people as possible. Sustainability, we're interested in hearing your thoughts about this from a environmental perspective and also a ongoing business perspective. How do you propose that to care for and look after the facility? Social procurement, we're also interested in what this looks like for you at the stage of construction and beyond. So these are 3 new areas for Foundation North that we're asking people to share their views and their approach to these 3 particular things. Thanks, Amy. Financial information. So this is the second part of the request information. Goes without saying, if you're a seasoned grant applicant, obviously we're interested to know about the revenue streams that you have coming in for the specific project build, but this particular section is also wanting you to tell us about the operations and maintenance over time. What's the plan in place you have there? Thank you, Amy. And the third part of the request information, we're interested in the building project description. And it seems like a silly thing to put, but we want you to tell us what you want funding for. And here I suppose we're asking you to be specific. Most funders have a range of limitations around what they can and can't fund. So we're asking you to be specific. For example, it might be that you're asking for a specific contribution towards, I don't know, the roof or the overall construction. We're wanting you to be as specific as possible. What is it that you want funding for from Foundation North? That way, we are able to make sure that what you're wanting funding for is indeed within the scope of what we're able to consider. The next bullet point here, we're asking you to tell us about the uniqueness of your community and your region. This is optional. You don't have to, but again, it's helpful. You know, what's unique about your specific community and or region? For example, it might be that the facility you're proposing to build, it may be the only one of its kind in your region. So that's the kind of thing that is optional if you'd like to paint a bit more of a picture about your community and region. We want you to tell us what the total cost of the project is, and we encourage you to tell us the whole cost, not just the component that you're coming to Foundation North for. Tell us the whole cost of the project, and then the amount you're likely to request from Foundation North if you're successful in the expression of interest phase. I put here in the orange box, when you're going through the funding hub, you'll see there's a construction table, and this is new. And this construction table speaks specifically to the types of costs. For example, there might be costs around earthworks. We're asking you to detail confirmed funding, and we're asking you to also share with us any pending funding with other funders. Thanks, Amy. And that's a duplicate slide there. There we go. And the third and final part of any grant application, including community building projects, is around the supporting documentation. And you can see here on this slide, I've sort of outlined the mandatory documents and then the optional and very helpful documents. Essentially, if you take the approach, the more information you can share with us, the more insight we're able to have in assessing and putting together a recommendation for our board. So mandatory documents there: financial statements, feasibility study, business case, utilisation profile, and a funding plan. And any of the optional stuff is very, very helpful. Now, all of this supporting documentation is uploaded as part of the request via the funding hub. So again, just drawing your attention to the importance of registering and making sure that you're comfortable when driving around the funding hub. Super, super important for this process, and also any successful grant, is that's where everything's administered. I'm just going to pause here for a sec and take a look at the chat. You can see it pinging in the background. Cool. Thanks, Audrey. Cool. Thanks, team. Looks like the team's got that sorted, answering questions. Next slide. Thanks, Amy. So the next steps. the next steps, obviously, contact our team with your intention to submit an expression of interest, and we will enable a community building projects form via the Funding Hub. So once you've registered into the Funding Hub, we invite you to contact us. Use this email address, info@foundationnorth.org.nz, or that phone number. You'll get through to one of these lovely people, and we'll be able to enable a request. If you just go into the Funding Hub now, you won't be able to find the correct request form. So super important that you reach out to us and we can enable that for you. Thanks, Amy. And that's the end of the slides. I was about to say, are there any questions? I might still ask that, and you can type them in the chat. So any questions?
Helen, can you give us an example of social procurement? Just a question in the chat, please.
Sure, let me just find it. I guess we're interested in what your approach to social procurement is, essentially. Have you considered supporting local business? It's something we're interested in, what your approach to that has been or is. It might be whether you're choosing to use local business people. It might be not. It's not a, I want to say, it's not a component that that influences the final decision, but it's a discussion that we're interested in having with applicants. I think Audrey has posted a little bit more info in there. I've just scrolled back to the top. Denise from DIA. Kia ora, Denise. Yes, we do. We are connected with the DIA Community Facilities Fund, and most of our applications have often touched that grant as well. So yes, we do try and work with other funding stakeholders as much as possible. A few more messages coming through here. Just picking up on your question, PKL as a new organisation, is there a major hindrance or anything we can do to boost our chances of funding? Following through those three components, the organisation, request and supporting information, that's a formula that everyone uses. And I suppose of particular interest to us is the strength of alignment to the mahi that you do. And in this case, the proposed mahi that will take place in the community facility you're proposing. So whether you're new or old, it's critical to us, the alignment to strategy. And if you are new to us, sharing a little bit more information, I suppose, if we're not known to you, sharing as much information as you can about your journey in the mahi you do. I wouldn't say it boosts your chances of funding. The final decisions are made by our trustees, but it certainly gives us a fuller picture of the role you play in your community. Can we advise what types of costs are out of scope? Kia ora, Josie. So we don't do any of the preliminary costs, so we don't fund feasibility studies. or any of the preliminary costs associated to a building. Geographically, is there a specific area that you support? Yeah, kia ora, Robin. Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. Our region we specifically support is the communities of Tamaki and of Auckland and Northland. So our boundary is kind of Port Waikato, across to Miranda and north of there, including the Hauraki Gulf. So that's the foundation North Rohe. We do have, there are other community trusts throughout the motu that you may like to look into if you fall outside of our region. Yeah, what about major building renovation of an existing community facility? Yep, so we take application via this grant for a renovation of an existing community facility also. Kia ora, Peter. Hey, thank you everybody for taking time out of your day to join us for this quick chat. Hopefully it's been helpful and useful. All of the information about our Community Building Projects Fund is open and it is available on the website. Amy, I might just get you to flick back through the PowerPoint to that time, to the slide with the timeline on it. If you can. I should have copied that one towards the end. So just ending on this timeline. So again, expressions of interest are open now and they close on the 15th of June. A decision will be made on the expressions of interest at the end of August. And if you are successful, you'll be invited to submit a full application. There'll be more information about what additional information you need to provide in the full application when we get there. And if you make it through to the full application stage, a final decision will be made at our board meeting in late March. And again, all of this is available on our website. Thank you everybody for your attention. I'm going to sign off now. Please know that this recording is available on the website and we look forward to hearing from you. First step, register to the Funding Hub if you haven't already. Update your organisation profile. Get in contact with us to enable a request, an expression of interest request, and then you're on your way to submit those, work your way through those three components: org profile, request, supporting information. Thank you everybody. Kia ora, have a great day. Bye.